Hello, my jellyfitters. My name is Jim, and this is your Daily Brogue for the 9th of July, 2025. So, I'm not sure exactly what I was talking about last time. We were still talking about free speech. I want to get off of that and go somewhere else. But I think maybe it's been a couple of weeks for me. Um, but maybe we should talk a little bit about where free speech could or should go um, before we go on. So, I think we got a pretty good idea about the sort of things that should be protected and should not be protected. So, political speech needs to be protected. Um, a lesser level of protection would be for something like artistic speech, right? Which I'm not sure if it needs to be protected, but that would be where you get your free speech, your requirement that people be allowed access to pornography. This can be you may know a little bit controversial, but not necessarily. So I guess what do I mean by that, right? So um, artistic speech itself is not something that is important for democracy, right? Um, Usually, if artistic speech is making a point, it's fairly heavy in the uh, sort of stupid range. I shouldn't say that, but it is. It's stupid. In general, um, artistic speech tends to be banal and trite, and um, really not very good. It's not something that influences somebody who's a thinking person. It tends to reinforce people's prejudices, right? So, a lot of times people say they go to, let's say, a performance art show to be challenged. They're not going there to be challenged. They're going there to be comforted, right? They're going there to have their view of the world reinforced because they're the sort of people you might have noticed already that go to these shows, right? So this is um, the sorts of people who go to these shows are the people who go to be challenged and who want to be told what to think by the artist. And in general, that what to think is kind of left leaning. Well, I shouldn't say kind of left leaning, very left leaning, um, and will be more or less what the audience would have believed anyway, right? So in that case, the general rationale people give for including the arts in this because of its contribution to democracy is just a lie. It's a self-serving lie. The arts do not actually contribute to people's thoughts. If a bunch of very left-leaning people wanted to be challenged, they would be sitting around going to, neo-Nazi performance art, whatever neo-Nazi performance art is. Right? I've never heard of it, but if a bunch of rich shits from Greenwich Village, well, I shouldn't say from Greenwich Village, but who live in Greenwich Village or Soho or something like that, if a bunch of jackasses in Manhattan started spending top dollar on, going to neo-Nazi concerts, there would be a lot of neo-Nazi concerts. That's the way these things work. But in general, there will not be. So we don't have to worry about it. I need to kite that monkey over the altar. That is, I need to get that monkey to see me and to start hunting me. So that will annoy him. There we go. And the monkey found the vault for me. Good. I don't know if that does anything to the picture. Probably not, because it's the window thing. So I can actually increase the size as much as I want, and everything will be good. Um, so actually, this will work with. Oh, perfect. Very good. This will work with some what I want to talk about next. Thinking about it, but the thing here I'm saying is that the problem with the arts being as important as straight on debate is that the arts, as it were, I shouldn't say as it were, I mean the arts, will not um, appeal to the people that need to be talked to in the arts, right? You have to get the other side, you have to get the two sides talking. That's the point, right? It's not, we're going to talk to you and you have to listen. It's not anything else other than you and I both it's a spear, not a dagger. Great. And plus 2 ring awareness is good. The goal is to um, try to use democracy, right, to best reflect the interests of its citizens. And I hate to say this, but that doesn't does not mean the same thing at all times, right? So it could possibly be that, um, let's say if we're just staying with speech, which I think should be a fairly light policy, right? You should have guessed that we should not have a strong um, policy on how we think other people are supposed to act, as far as speeching is concerned. Um, but let's say the amount of restriction we might put in the arts should be different at different times. Since I've already said that, I think that arts is something that we could, in fact, restrict. That would be true for lots of other things, right? Although I won't get into any of them because I'm sure everybody has stronger feelings than they should for most of them, because that's how people work these days. Well, that's how people always worked. +3 leather armor mutuality, that is good. Okay, we will go with that is good. Anything else? It's a +0 spear. We can take a chance on the sword. We don't have any. No, let's see. Where do we have a place? I do not have a place for identify. A good place to identify growth. Teleportation. Okay, that speed. Okay. Ogre crap. Yo, we will not win. We will not win. Not with what we have. Okay. Here, I'm just going to put that sword. Okay, is not bad. So it's better than the spear. I have that invisibility, right? Okay. Visibility's gone. Okay, let's apply F with curse. Something is cursed. Plate mail, scale mail, or mace. So J, K, We'll keep the mace just in case. Plate mail or scale mail I probably don't need, and so let's see. I protected the weapon, shattering, aggravate monsters. IP. Okay, mutuality actually I don't need to. I died anyway. Okay, so basically we say that political speech has to be protected, which means criticism of political speech has to be protected. Second of all, we say that art could have a sliding scale in its protection because it's not really part of the conversation. Instead, it's usually a reinforcement mechanism. Art makes political division, worse. But depending on where we are at the time, probably we should always leave it open to be as much art as possible gets distributed, as long as people are paying for it themselves and they're not getting any money from institutions that can take money from people involuntarily, whether that is directly through government or through subsidies from government. Um, the thing that I did not talk about was protest. Okay. And although protest is okay, protest should be good because reasonable protest falls under criticism. It has to be allowed. Any protest that interferes with other people probably should not be allowed. So that also has a sliding scale, right? When we have impromptu shutting down of streets, we can decide on the level that people should be able to do that, right? Um, but when we get to the point where people are shouting down speakers, that has to be restricted. Remember, we had some guy who was saying that there have to be levels of free speech or levels of tolerance, and we cannot tolerate at any level people who are restricting the purpose of free speech, which is to get ideas out, right? The the purpose of free speech is not for you to get everybody's ideas out, to get your ideas out. It's to get all ideas out, whether you like them or not. And you can register your dislike of that particular speech act any way you like, as long as you are not interfering with the other person's ability to get it out, right? You don't have to help them get it out, but you can't restrict them. You can't if somebody has a license to speak, or if somebody is speaking in a private place or even in a public space and he has a license to speak, your heckler's veto should get you arrested because it goes 180 degrees against the whole reason why we have free speech, right? Your heckling is not contributing to the conversation. Your heckling is making polarization worse, just like art does. Only it's not as pretty. So there we go. I've solved free speech issues for you. Like I said, there are a lot of places where we can slide levers up and down, right? Um, So we can have situations where we think, or not situations, because it has to be uniform, right? If we say it's okay for people to protest an international corporation by blocking off the streets around its place, then it's okay for neo-Nazis to block off a synagogue, or it's okay for the Ku Klux Klan to block off a black church, right? Everything has to be reciprocal. So make sure that when you say, I want to make sure nobody can get in to buy a Tesla, you're just as fine with a bunch of guys in white robes burning crosses, blocking off streets in Atlanta. Okay, bye now.